Tonight, it's one man, 6 bourbons, and 40 years of bourbon drinking history.
I bought this at some point in the 90s, decided it was better than these other bourbons. I think I bought this somewhere in the late 90s, maybe just after the turn of the century. I was still living out in the desert, I remember that. Caramel and oak. It's not as sweet as the 114 or the bonded. The aromas are much lighter, but again I'm starting to pick up that one aroma that I can't quite put my finger on. It's not bad, it's actually nice, but I can't quite discern what it is. Get a little more alcohol in this as well. And I really shouldn't, because it's a lower proof than the 114. But it seems to have a little more alcohol on the nose. There's a little heavier fruitiness here too. It's not as light as before, and I'm thinking it might be a peach or maybe a mild apricot. There's less butteriness, but that characteristic is still there as well. This compares more to the bonded. It's a little smoother, it's a little creamier, a little less buttery, but a little more caramelly and a little more fruity. I'm not getting that excess alcohol flavor that I got in the aroma. Very nice bourbon. I would put it pretty close to on a par in terms of drinkability with the 114, but in terms of flavor profile, I think I would have to put it a little closer to the bonded. Time to move on. Here we have Bulleit. Color here is a little bit darker than the bottled in bond, so I'm going to think that it's probably just a little bit darker than the 114. I think I forgot to look at the color on the Knob Creek, and that glass is at least empty for the time being. This is a lighter, more caramelly drink. A little more oaky. A little spicier. I'm getting something like a little bit of cinnamon. This one has a little bit more of that dark fruitiness that I often hear associated with bourbon, like maybe a cherry or a black cherry perhaps. Currant, maybe. A little bit more vanilla, I think. Yeah, definitely a little bit more vanilla. Some of that oakiness. Let's see what it tastes like. definitely spicier. There is a little bit of that cinnamon there, a little bit of that vanilla there, some caramel there. I don't get the butteriness that I get with the Beam products. It's not quite as smooth. Now let's try the one I am currently calling my favorite. From the very first whiff of this, I knew it was better than Bulleit. There was no question. And it seemed like one of the best bourbons in my price range I'd ever drank. It was so smooth and so sweet. So let's see what happens here. Very light aroma. A little bit of honey. Sweetness, vanilla, caramel. Pears, apples, perhaps a little bit darker fruit, something like that peach or apricot that I mentioned a little bit earlier. Extremely light and long finish. And really almost none of that pepperiness that I've come to associate with some of the other bourbons here. But when I think about it in terms of the other six, I'm thinking it doesn't quite have as intense a flavor profile. It's got a longer, sweeter, creamier finish than most. But it is definitely not as intense. I'm certainly going to have to try it right up next to the 114. Color is very similar. Not enough that I would actually notice a difference. Yeah, this is way more intense on the nose, way more buttery, way more caramelly. This is lighter, more fruity, a little more floral. Both of them very pleasant, but the 114 extremely more intense. Oh. Yeah. Compared to the Four Roses, the 114 is an explosion of flavor. It's hard to decide which one is better, but I think the 114 wins this flight. I think the Four Roses and the Knob Creek sort of end up in a tie. They're very different bourbons. And I think the only reason I would put them in a tie is that I would choose the 114 over the Knob Creek every single time. But just barely. They're very, very similar bourbons. I would prefer the Four Roses as an after-dinner drink, perhaps with dessert. I would prefer the 114 pretty much any other time. So there you have it. If I had to rank them in order of preference, the 114, the Four Roses small batch, the Knob Creek 100 proof, the Old Grandad bottled in bond, the Bulleit, and the Old Grandad 80. All of them are good bourbons. The 114 is an excellent bourbon at its price point. So is the Four Roses. And actually, so is the Old Grandad 80. It's considerably less expensive than any of the bourbons here. It was the only one under $20, and I think I got it for $13.99, which makes it an excellent buy, even though it finishes last in this flight. So there you have it. My favorite bourbons over the years, and my new favorite go-to bourbon. If you like this video, if you like bourbon, if you like food, if you like me, if you thought it was entertaining at all, hit that subscribe button. Help me out. I'm just getting started here. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you soon.